Hello, Iowa Realtors. I am Eric Malloy, your 2026 president, and I'm here with Justin Hayes, our legal counsel. And today we're going to talk about the unauthorized practice of law. So Justin, can you explain exactly what is the unauthorized practice of law?
Yeah, okay. So I had to pull like this definition from actual
AI?
That's my bad. No, it wasn't from AI. It was actually from like the Iowa court rules and like Iowa court rulings. So the unauthorized practice of law actually encompasses a few different things. So I'm just going to read through this list. The performance or rendering of legal services by non-lawyers or individuals not authorized to practice in the state. Non-lawyers holding out to the public that they're qualified to perform legal services. This is where realtors get themselves in trouble. Exercise of professional judgment regarding legal matters, like for instance saying, I've reviewed this situation and I don't think you need to consult an attorney. Problematic. Giving legal advice, directly or indirectly, to individuals or groups. Licensed Iowa attorneys performing legal services in Iowa while they're inactive, and then lawyers from other state performing legal services in the state when they're not licensed to do so. So it's a whole grouping of things that constitute the unauthorized practice of law.
Okay. Can you, though, explain to me why the unauthorized practice of law matters when we're working with our clients, especially when in today's world or environment, I can just go to AI and ask them a legal question.
You can.
And they will respond.
They will.
Answer it like an attorney. And so I feel like I could give that information to my client.
No, they will answer it like an attorney. They will be verbose and they will be confusing and they will use a bunch of big words to tell you a whole lot of nothing, right?
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. They will give you the wrong answer.
Sounds like an attorney.
It sounds like an attorney, right? But no, the problem is that with AI, you can't rely on the answer you actually get. Look, there are stories of attorneys who use AI to try to prepare briefs and stuff, and then they submit it to the court. The court gets the brief. The court looks for the cases that they use that they got from AI, and those cases don't exist. AI can hallucinate. The unauthorized practice of law generally is a big deal because we want people to rely on the information that they're giving. We want, when they consult with a practitioner in whatever field they're in, they can trust and rely on the information that they receive. So that's why we don't want people who don't have legal training attempting to engage in tasks that require legal training.
Okay, that makes sense. Are there any exceptions to the rule of unauthorized practice of law?
Yeah, and actually in the real estate context, the big thing is that there's an exception that allows for limited real estate practice by licensees. So like you guys can actually fill out certain documents, certain legal documents pursuant to a transaction. That includes like a purchase agreement. You can fill out, I believe, a declaration of value. There's actually a list in the Iowa court rules of the documents you can fill out versus the documents you can't fill out. You can't do things like title clearance affidavits, for instance.
Okay.
To the extent that you as licensees are allowed to engage in the unauthorized practice of law, it's very, very controlled. You can prepare a groundwater hazard statement. You can prepare a declaration of value. You can prepare a purchase agreement, provided the parties are given written notice that the documents are legally binding. You can't prepare a deed. You can't prepare a real estate installment contract. You can't prepare any kind of affidavit, whether it's an affidavit of identity or non-identity, or like an affidavit regarding spousal support or child support. So It's a very strict, limited list of things that you guys can do just to help facilitate the transaction and keep the transaction moving forward.
Okay, great. What does the unauthorized practice of law look like in the real estate context?
Yeah, so
we kind of covered this a little bit, but if you can expand on that.
Absolutely. So there's a couple of different examples, right? So like one example I found actually on the NAR website was there was an example of a broker in New York who was disciplined for inserting terms into a purchase money mortgage, inserting terms of a purchase money mortgage into a purchase contract. So it was they actually took some of the language from this purchase money mortgage and moved it over into the actual contract itself. And at that point, they're altering a prepared form. It's not filling in the blanks. It's now here are additional clauses that have legal implications that maybe the parties to the transaction don't understand. That actually led to that broker getting in trouble.
Okay.
And then an example that came out of Iowa was there was this
It wasn't me, was it?
No, I don't think so, unless you change your name, which I have not.
Good.
No, there was this example in Iowa of a certified financial planner who was presenting these seminars where he was advertising living trusts as like an estate planning device, which might be within the scope of what certified financial planners are allowed to do. but he was going beyond just, hey, maybe you should sign up for a living trust. It became advising on their specific situations. And that's actually the difference between like giving legal advice versus giving generalized legal information.
Okay, that was my follow-up question, is the difference between advice and legal information.
Yes. So when you're just reciting the law, when you're just reciting like, hey, go look at 543B, maybe even include a subsection, right? Go look at this clause in the code. That's giving legal information. It's a mere recitation of the thing. When you start to apply the law to specific facts, so in your situation, I would advise you to do. If you start to advise, if you start to cross the threshold from this is what the law says to this is how the law applies to your situation, and you start making strategic decisions based on that, you've crossed the line from legal information to legal advice.
Okay, so if I go to 543B and I read a section of that based on a situation that I have going on in a transaction, am I okay by sharing that information? Obviously, I can share it, but can I advise my client based on the information that I just read from 543B? I just want to get some clarification there.
Yeah, and that's where it gets tough because again, are you giving them an assessment of risk? Are you giving them potential specific outcomes based on their situation? Are you advising beyond just here's what the code says, interpret it yourself, and then let me know what you want to do? Or are you saying here's what the code says, here's how it applies to your situation, here's what I recommend we do? Because that moment you've made that recommendation, you've given advice based on that code. So
I'm going to read the code, and then I'm going to call Justin with questions.
You can call me with the questions, and I'll likely give you legal information as well. Because
Okay.
that's the thing. Like that's why I always say talk to a private attorney. Is because I'm not just trying to kick the can down the road. I'm trying to get you in a situation where you're talking to somebody who understands your situation, who understands all like holistically what the picture is, and then can give you specific advice for your specific situation. I can't always do that. I only have one client, and it's the association.
Okay.
So
So what are the takeaways you want to give to our members on this topic?
yeah, I've got a few of them.
Okay.
Just a couple. So one, like, look, it's nice to be nice, right? I think realtors have a well-deserved reputation for being, like, for going the extra mile for their clients, right? Or, yeah, for going the extra mile for their clients. But sometimes going the extra mile can get you in trouble. Don't go beyond the scope of what you're allowed to do under the law. So that's the first one. Related to that, just like restrict your duties to what the law allows. Use standardized forms to the extent that you can. If you have to craft something that's like bespoke to the transaction, you got to get an attorney involved because you're moving beyond generalized legal information, and now you're starting to really dive into like what the law requires. And if that addendum that you craft that's like a bespoke thing doesn't meet the law's requirements, well, now you got an issue, and you drafted the thing.
And definitely don't do that without talking to your broker first.
100%. Yes. And then last but not least, like, look, when in doubt, refer it out to outside counsel. If you're not sure what to do, go talk to an attorney. That's it.
Okay. Well, thank you for that great advice.
Thank you.